Hello, welcome to Claudia K Behind the Scenes. Here I am. I wanted to get a second video out on this channel last week and maybe a third, but I had a massive fibromyalgia flare up and I got nothing done except for my 2 sales and packing and invoicing. That's all I got done. And a tiny bit of sourcing, but my dad had to drive me. I couldn't even drive myself to go to Goodwill, but my dad had other errands to run and he was willing to drive me around a little bit, and I am so grateful for them. So if you're new here, this is behind the scenes. This is about my life with chronic illness, because I have more than one. And this is going to be part 1 in talking about my life leading up to now. I turned 50 this year. So we are going to start with some disclaimers. Nothing I ever say is medical advice. It is my own lived experience. Everything that I talk about is from my own perspective. And as we all know, that's only half the story. Other people involved had their own perspectives. And I will try as hard as I can be to be 100% honest while still protecting other people that are involved in my life and my story. So sometimes you won't get the whole thing because I wouldn't want to hurt somebody involved. So those are my disclaimers. Remember, no medical advice here. Let's go back. We're going to start in 1973 with my birth. I was born in South Carolina because my parents had been attending college down there. And so that's where I spent the first 2 years of my life, which interestingly enough does contribute to your speech patterns as you're learning to talk as a baby. So every now and then my Southern comes out. We moved back to Ohio when I was 2. I was breastfed and basically healthy according to my mom, except that I did not sleep. I just didn't sleep. I wasn't unhappy and I didn't scream my head off all the time, but I just did not sleep. That's important to note. My sister came along 12 months later. I was born May 17th of 73 and she was born May 29th of 74. And then the next sister came 18 months after that. My brother came 18 months after that, and my baby sister 18 months after him. So 5 years within 6.5, or 5 kids within 6.5 years. And very close to my siblings. I'm very glad that we are close in age because as adults, we went through the same life events together. I shared pregnancies with my sisters. We breastfed our babies at the same time. We had massive amounts of birthday parties, and trick-or-treating was always a big deal because you'd get all of 11 kids together. So I enjoyed that part of being that close to my siblings. And someday when I had my own kids, I wanted them to be close together. And we moved back to Ohio when I was 2. And we moved around a lot when I was a kid. A lot. So we lived in a house in town and then moved, trying to remember the timeline that my mom has told me because I'm too little. Like, I remember bits and pieces. I remember the stairs in that house were super steep, but I was like 3. And then we moved to a little yellow house in the country. And there were two farmhouses, 3 farmhouses after that. Anyway, so when we were, when I was almost 10, we moved off the farm. And my mom was, now we would call her a crunchy granola mom. Back then, I think she was called a health food nut. But we lived off of what we grew. We had a massive garden. Mom canned everything. Mom ground her own wheat. She made her own tofu. Like, we ate healthy. She did not even keep sugar in the house. So had the healthiest background that children could have. And Mom was always doing more research to make sure that she was feeding us the right things and like drinking enough water. And she's always been super health conscious about doing it naturally. Because of that, though, we did not like go to regular checkups with a doctor. That just wasn't something that was done. And so, I mean, and we weren't unhealthy. So to me and my brain, because of the way I was raised, you just don't go to the doctor unless like you're bleeding to death or, you know, you're on your deathbed when you go to the doctor. So I was a weird kid, a weird kid. I started reading before kindergarten, and I asked Mom about how that happened. I'm like, what, did you specifically teach me to read? And it was just something I had picked up. And of course, she read to me, my grandma read to me. I remember my dad reading to all of us when we lived on the last farm before we moved into the city, the Little House on the Prairie. And he would read to all 5 of us out under a tree in the yard, probably when my mom needed a break and needed a break to clean, not even a break to rest. It was probably just a break to clean without 5 littles running around under her feet. But I still have that whole set of books, and that first book is Sun Faded because he read that to us outside. But anyway, so I get into kindergarten, and I can already read. My dad's a genius, like a literal genius. My mom was valedictorian of her class, so highly intelligent, and different kinds of intelligence, though. Like everything my dad, it's in his brain already. My mom's always had to work very hard at learning new things, but both of my parents believe still to this day that you never stop learning. And so for me, that was just something I thought all people did. And so it's frustrating for me when I come across people who are like, well, I learned all the sum total of everything I need to know in life before I graduated high school and never learning another thing again. And it's just like, what? So my mom had, and I still have, you know, bookcases of things that we're always in the process of learning. Herbs or essential oils or, you know, I've owned every diet book out there. And not diet is in dieting to lose weight. Dieting is in healthy way of eating diet. And so learning is just something that you naturally do and absorb. So when I get to kindergarten, I'm being raised by 2 highly intelligent parents. And I get into kindergarten, and this kindergarten teacher is treating me like I'm a 5-year-old, where I'd never been treated like that before. I was very upset about it. She expected me to lay down in the middle of the day and take a nap. She expected me to read, you know, Spot Fetches the Ball. And here I am reading chapter books before I go to kindergarten. And so kindergarten was very frustrating for me. And also, I wasn't around a lot of kids my age besides my siblings. We, at church, you know, you're mostly around adults. There's other kids, but you're mostly around adults, which is most of my social interaction up until this point. So it was very strange for me to go to kindergarten and be around all of these other kids my age who did not talk like me, who did not have the vocabulary I did, who did not read at my level. It was very frustrating. And so I was disruptive and was removed from kindergarten. And my best friend, Wesley, who was also a super smart kid, his mom took him out of the school too and homeschooled the 2 of us and my sister, who was 4, at her house. She had little desks set up, and it was just like school, except she was teaching us, you know, 6th grade level things when I was 5. So I was a weirdo, and that stupid teacher treated me like I was a little kid. And was much happier. They switched schools for me the next year, and I had the best teacher. She taught 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade all in the same room. It was a very small Wesleyan school where, you don't wear jewelry, don't cut your hair, you wear skirts way past your knees, that kind of thing. And I loved her. She immediately picked up on how intelligent both Wesley and I were, and was just letting us do work far beyond what the rest of the class was doing. And like, she let me lead a reading circle, because she had first grade, second grade, third grade reading circles. Wesley led one, led one, and she led one. So it was much better than my kindergarten teacher. But I was still a weird little kid. Weird. I was happy and some of the stuff that I'm going to tell you now will make sense later on. I still didn't fit in. I did not understand other kids. I didn't understand their little friendships. It was all very confusing to me. My favorite thing was swinging on the swing. And a lot of times my teacher would keep an eye on me until my dad would get off work to pick me up, and I would swing for a couple hours. I'd just be on that swing out there in the playground, just swinging. And I love that. I also was the kind of kid that was constantly daydreaming. So I'm looking out the window and not paying attention to anything in class. And I just absorbed books. She could not keep me in books enough to keep me happy. I just read everything. And, we're talking chapter books, not like Dr. Seuss. And so spent a couple years at that school and then moved. And then like there, I won awards for reading the most books out of the class, and I got in trouble for not showing my work on math problems for the first time because I looked at the problem, I knew the answer, I wrote down the answer, and then I got in trouble. So it was more of a struggle than the last teacher had been, but it wasn't near as bad as kindergarten. I mean, by then it was known that I was a little bit smarter than everyone else, and so I was kept busy with extra work and allowed to just read instead of being disruptive. If that kindergarten teacher just handed me a book and gave me a little nightlight in a corner, I wouldn't have been disruptive. But to expect me to lay down in the middle of the day and take a nap, I was not a kid that napped even before kindergarten. I wasn't going to do that. So that's the school we were at when we were living on the last farm. So I was 9. And then we moved to the city. And the next year, my parents were able to buy their first house. And it was big, and we loved it, the big brick house. And we'd moved because my mom had gotten a job teaching at a Christian school here. And she was the music teacher, she was the home ec teacher, she was the Bible teacher, and occasionally the gym teacher. My mom always stepped in and did whatever was needed. And then Ohio changed the laws, and she did not have her teaching degree or whatever was needed to continue teaching at the Christian school, even though my mom is an awesome, amazing teacher. So then she had to quit. Well, when she couldn't work there anymore, and she wasn't the only teacher, it happened to several of the teachers working there, then she had to put us into public school. So here I am, and now we're in what? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 5th school. So 7th grade going into public school, and I have never been exposed to anybody saying a swear word, ever. I don't own a pair of pants. My hair is, halfway down my back because we don't cut our hair. And, I am a weird, awkward kid. 12? Going into, tall for my age, super skinny. I've got Coke bottle glass. We're talking like Coke bottle glasses. I was just the biggest weirdo and still have no idea how friendships work. I don't get how people can be so nasty behind other people's backs and then be walking around with them like they're the best friends the next day. Like, I still am not getting it. I'm just not getting it. And of course, they do testing before we go into school, and I'm immediately put in the TAG program, Talented and Gifted. And so you would think then I would find other kids that I could be friends with. No, I'm still just an awkward weirdo. And I'm constantly trying to analyze and figure out what it is that I'm doing wrong, that I'm not fitting in. And the only thing I come up with is that I'm just a weirdo because I have been in these small private schools and I lived on a farm, and these kids are all city kids, or these kids have been going to school together since they were 5. And so they've known each other, all of these, for the last 7 years, 8 years. And I just don't fit in. I just don't fit in. So while I'm in middle school, I start getting headaches. And I also, of course, got my period around the same time. And I got cramps so severe that it feels like somebody's taking a knife and stabbing me in the gut. And these headaches won't go away. And I had a headache for a year consecutively. I had it when I went to sleep. I woke up with it. It didn't go away. Mom took me to several different doctors. Doctors are like, it's all in her head. Take her to a psychologist. Mom took me to a psychologist who's like, this is not a psychological problem. There's something physical going on. And so I'm struggling with constant pain, and then monthly pain where I feel like I'm going to die. And so I think we're gonna stop it there. So we're at where I'm just 13, 14 and already starting to experience pain. But I was a weird, awkward kid that did not fit in, and that hasn't changed. I'm still a weird, awkward adult. Okay, so that's part one, and we got up to the first, 13, 14 years. All right, you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon, hopefully with part 2. I'll talk to you later.